You've been to San Antonio a couple of times already. The president was here, I think it was back in April. Why the focus on San Antonio? Why is the city important to the campaign right now?
Well, I've been coming here for a long time anyway. I have friends all over the place. The relationship with Texas sort of started through my outdoor hobbies and hunting, fishing, shooting, all the stuff that's a little harder to do living in the People's Republic of New York. But the reality, we just have a lot of friends here that have just been really good to us from day one. In 2016 when we came here, we went to them when sort of we were this unusual candidate from out of the spectrum, and no one was really sure. And when we weren't getting as much help from the political parties then, it was like going to our friends and our own Rolodexes and saying, hey guys, can you do something for us here? Since then, I think my father's delivered for those people incredibly, and for, frankly, all of the people of this state and all of those people with conservative values.
Some have said that it may be a challenge for the president to actually win the votes here in San Antonio. How would you respond to that?
I don't think so. I mean, listen, he does have to be the president to all people, and you do have a divided electorate in some of the, these sort of places. Though I think, in reality, he's delivering for a lot of people. When you look at the things that he's done, they haven't just been, well, this is Republican dogma and we have to do it. I mean, when you talk about opportunity zones, prison reform, so many things that he's done that have just sort of broken away from, one side or the other. But he did them because they were the right thing to do. I think that's important. And when you look at employment numbers, you have the best employment numbers in the history of America. Unemployment numbers are the lowest for Hispanics, for African Americans, for women, all-time high startup new businesses, more female entrepreneurship in the last 3.5 years than ever before in American history. So, we won't get the credit for some of those things in the media. They didn't just magically happen. They happened because of policies, because you have a businessman that's running the country in many respects like a business. If it doesn't work, cut it, get rid of it. How are we going to do this to actually spur entrepreneurship? And so when you have someone that's actually done it, someone who's actually signed the front of a paycheck, not just the back, like so many of our decision makers have, you get different results. And I don't think anyone could argue with the results.
Yeah. The president has been accused of throwing anti-immigrant rhetoric out there. And so what kind of messaging will you be giving the Latino voter, and especially here in San Antonio and Texas?
I think they have to look at facts. I mean, there's nothing anti-immigrant. My mother's an immigrant. My father's mother was an immigrant. There's nothing anti-immigrant, but we do have to have and prioritize Americans. And I think when you look at the results of cracking down on some of these things, you see wage growth for the first time in modern history going up for the lowest income earners. Okay, when you look at whether it's Latino, whether it's the African American youth, they are most likely to be the people displaced by illegal immigration, in the workforce. So you look at those results, you see what's happening, and you say, well, wait a minute, we're actually elevating these people. We're giving Americans that chance to live that American dream. Now, we're all for immigration, frankly, because of the job situation. It's the one time we actually probably need more of it because he's done such a good job filling all of that vacancy that was existent for far too long. Now you need it, but we need to do it with people who are going to bring a lot of value to the table, people who can help everyone grow. Well, listen, I think you can look at a lot of the people that we have running, and I think it's a very diverse Republican Party for the first time probably in a long time. I think we've seen that. I think we've worked well with the people, but again, I think it's not just about identity. It also needs to be about qualification. I think, in this day and age, sort of the notion of sort of identity politics has taken over and hasn't necessarily delivered any real results that, are as important as sort of factual database things. So we want people who can get things done, who can do that. In many of these, we have some incredible people running that I think are going to do a great job for that also do come from those communities and do understand there is nuance. And while you may have a message, that's generally speaking, each community, each congressional district, there is going to be nuance and there is going to be difference. But I think, the overarching goal of, just being able to have Americans live that dream, to have a better life, to grow our economy, to grow our businesses, to take a leadership role in the country is really important. Now, a lot of that messaging will never translate down into those communities. The left has done a very good job putting a stranglehold on it. You saw sort of the response to the coronavirus. The first thing when my father said, we're shutting down air travel from China. Oh, racist, it's xenophobic. Well, you want to keep air travel going from infectious disease? 4 days later, they came out and said, oh, well, now we can weaponize, we're different about it now. because of who we are, because of my father, there's sort of that instant message. No matter what he does, the media will carry it as though it's wrong. I do believe, and I do think that a lot of people, especially in the communities that you've been sort of referencing throughout this interview, I do think they get it. I do think a lot of the Latino community, while they've probably historically been very Democrat, I think when I look at sort of their notion of family, education, work, startup business, being pro-life, religious, I'm saying, guys, you're Republicans. You may not just know it. and so, again, hopefully that with the results that my father's been able to deliver really translates, because I do think America is winning. There's not an economic metric where we're not better off today, not one, than we were 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And again, that didn't happen by accident. Obama himself said there's no magic wand for that. Well, there is. You just needed someone who had actually done it before.
Some people say the president has created a movement of sorts, ignited a new sense of patriotism, the patriotic spirit. While on the other side, some say that he's polarizing. How would you respond to that moving forward in the next few months?
Well, like I said, I mean, anyone who creates that sort of movement in politics, obviously, you're just going to highlight the negatives. If you're a conservative, like we are, it's even more so, right? Because you have a mainstream media that is, generally speaking, left, right? It's not. I don't think anyone's going to argue that anymore, right? It's more agenda-based than it is reporting news. So, I think he has created a movement because Americans want to live their American dream. They want to leave their country for their kids in a better shape. They want to be able to prioritize those things. And again, he's done that with the economy. When you look at people that are unemployment numbers, just the best ever, right? That's for everyone. Okay, that's not, well, I'm only doing that for conservatives. Just like I said, prison reform. That wasn't a Republican Party platform. You know what it was? It was the right thing to do, to give those people a chance to live a reasonable life. So I think the results sort of speak for themselves. If there's a movement and there's pride in our country, it's sort of shocking that that's almost like a negative. That's used as a negative. I want every American to be proudful in America. I want every American to be able to say, hey, I'm giving my kid an opportunity to live that American dream. We want that for everyone, not for one side.
But how do you get that message across, though?
You just have to be out there. You have to continue to deliver. You have to be out there. It's not easy, like I said. I mean, because you've seen, whether it's the coronavirus example of, oh my God, you're being racist for shutting down airports from a specific area in China that has an infectious disease that 4 days later they're panicking about. But then they were being racist. The problem is, and it's part of the political system these days, racism is a real problem in this country still. It is. It exists. It's just not the answer for every problem you face. You can't just sort of say, easy button, that's racist. I'm not winning this argument, therefore we're going to drop that. And that's what's happened. The left has done that, where when they don't have an explanation, when they can't really figure out why they can't deliver on something, that must be the problem. And the problem is, it does a major disservice to those who are actually afflicted by it. Because again, it does happen. It just doesn't happen all the time, but when you hear it every day, that everything's this, you sort of roll your eyes to it at a certain point, and it loses the efficacy for those who are actually afflicted, and that's a true shame and a disgrace, but I don't see that changing anytime soon, just because it's sort of become the playbook of the left.